It's kind of complicated because it took me a while to figure out the how to do it without having to record it through OBS, so I can see the actual um, sound wave that's being recorded, and whenever you're talking, I can see it too. So
Now, you know what the thing that's interesting about this is there's probably a lot of people who actually right now are probably sitting at the front of their chairs who want to know like how to solve problems like this because they're probably having the same issues.
I'm recording it in a different channel, so I can have our voices separated, so I can edit each one individual one, make it sound more cleaner.
Oh, very nice, very fancy.
Took me at least a couple hours to figure it out. That's why I was like, "Oh, I hope he's not on yet. I hope he's not on yet." And you got logged on, and my family came. I thought that we were gonna, it's gonna take us only a couple hours, but it's very unpredictable. It just kind of hit us. It's like, oh crap, I meant to
Oh,
log
well,
in. Yeah, I meant to log in and tell you, but I'm like, I forgot. And I got kids. I just put them to bed. I have a little monitoring system here that I have. Just got the iPad and keeping an eye on them here and there. Have the audio to see one of
well,
them wakes up.
that sounds like a real handful, though. I mean, they sound adorable, but that sounds like it's a real handful.
Yes, it is. I love them to death. I've never want to say anything about. I've never want to say to a person like, "Don't ever have kids," because I'm biased. I'm like, I would probably encourage it, but I don't. Either way, I don't tell anybody to have or not have kids. I just I like having kids.
Oh, well, hey, that's yeah, no, that's very nice though. I mean, hey, listen, that's the most important thing is to really get like joy from things like that in your life. You know what I mean? From like that's what's most important is to have your children and to have like a lot of joy from it, you know. And I understand too what you mean about like not necessarily wanting to lay a trip on somebody and like give them the impression that they should or shouldn't. So like I do understand that totally too.
Yeah, definitely. And I always have this, like, not argument, but some people say would, like, oh, can't do anything because I have kids. I'm too busy. For me, I want to play this game, and I still play it because I like it. I don't sit down here and play it all day because that would be really bad, right? But at the same time, I'm like, I can't play my game. I have kids. It's like that doesn't make any sense. You're not with them. You want to be with them, but you're not with them all the time. They sleep at like 8 o'clock, even earlier. But I guess that depends on the person too. On what else are they doing in their life? Like if they have any other hobbies, or maybe they have multiple hobbies. I wouldn't know that for sure.
Well, see, that's you know, it's interesting because I feel like for me personally, I don't know what having children would do to my playing schedule. You know, I mean, in the guild that I'm in, I feel like a lot of people have children and they still all love to play. So you're right. Like they definitely feel that way. Like, you know, there's time for things that you enjoy, you know, if you want to do them. But for me personally, I do think that it would I guess I would still play, but I guess everything would be very different. Like I have this vision of myself, like if I had kids, like I feel like I'm so inefficient at the way I play the game that if I had kids, I would still be like level 48 right now. Like hopefully I'd have a mount, but I'd only be like level 48 and I would still just be like leveling. That maybe I'm a little hard on myself, but I do just feel like I could imagine myself as just being totally just out of it and not able to keep up. So I mean, you're playing the game and doing well at it. So I think that that's really commendable, honestly. I think that you're actually very good at the game to kind of, you know. But then again, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just a matter of making time for something that you enjoy, you know.
Yeah, definitely. There's especially in the weekend, man. That's my like I feel all excited like when Friday hits because that's my rating night, and all the time, I wanna play. Like last night, we got over uh Molten Core, and we are on RC loot system. A couple of times, I rolled I needed on an item. Are you familiar with RC loot at all?
I think I'm a little bit familiar with it, but I mean, I wouldn't mind if you would explain it. I actually am curious to
Yeah,
know more about it.
So RC Loot, it's need and greed system, spec main spec roles, and I've never realized this until I installed it myself, and having somebody explain it kind of made more sense because it's it's a council pretty much, right? So you get to pick like maybe like 3 to 5 people, usually like 5 people, usually like officers, and whenever there's a drop, it goes into the master looter first. He or she loots it, and you nothing happens yet, right? So like you're on the third boss, everything is looted, and they if you guys decide to distribute the loot on the third after the third boss kill, then what he can do is he can make it. There's a box that you can choose from, so it shows for everybody that has the correct version of RC loot, and hopefully everybody has the same version, the newest version, and it pops a box where it says need, greed, minor upgrade. I think you can modify it the way you want, but I'm not sure about that. But it has the basic selection of role, greed, need, off spec, main spec, so forth, and and there's some notes on the side of it too, where you can put a note in there if you think that you deserve it more. Maybe like it's your fifth set or your eighth set that you've been waiting for. You can put it there. Usually, they'd be given to you if that's the case, depending on what the rules in your guild is, right? So after that box pops out and you select it, and the loot council members will see that, and there's a permission based. Um, he can the master looter, or whoever the raid leader is, can actually manipulate who can uh, view what. I think, because that's the way they do it. If he selects like 5 person to view who needed and greeted, then it saves into this cache pool of information, and then after he clears it, and it deletes it after every each roll. So that's the way it works, and I never knew that. I thought it was just something like DKP system, but it's nothing like that. It's more of a the name of it alone is just loot council. You have to have people with you to kind of agree who wants something. Let's say I needed something and another shaman needed it, and those 5 people are gonna talk who could benefit it more, and they can see our current um current equipped gear, so they'd be able to compare it, and that's kind of cool because we don't want anybody just needing it because if they have epic or something like that, and they just need it just for the sake of it, they'd be able to tell that, and they would more likely they would give that piece of item to that person who already has a better gear. But however, if it's like an upgrade, like I said, you have like a note there that you can add. If even if you have like even if you have BIS a gear, and you're waiting for one gear set, you can put it there. It's like, oh, this is my eighth gear. It's gonna make my healing so good. More likely, all those 5 people are gonna give that to you. That's what my guild is doing anyway. For as far as the rules go, it's still kind of based on your guild rules. Like it doesn't affect like any other system out there that are doing different thing. Like another guild will do something different with their loot council, you know, and ours we do it differently. But I'm not sure if any other guilds out there who does it the same as us.
And like this would never be used in retail, basically. Like you would have no need to use an add-on like this in retail.
No, no, because of the
Uh,
personal loot, right? The system that they have is all personal, based on no the character or uh each individual character.
I mean, it's so crazy because now it's like we've gone back in time and we're having to like reinvent these old loot systems that now haven't been used for who knows how many years in this game. I
That's
mean,
true.
are you a fan of that? Like there are people out there who love classic who think that personal loot is still like the better system. I mean, what do you think about that? I don't know how I feel about that.
Personal loot, I think it's, if I look at it as an RPG gamer, I wouldn't want that, because the realistic nature of having to roll on something that drops and you can physically see it from a boss. It seems like that's more of the realistic way. It's slower, obviously, and you won't see this um item that floods the chat box with like epic and who got who. And
Mm.
it I mean, I like that, but I like that because it's, you don't get to blame anybody from, you can't be ninjaed, you can't be tricked. And honestly, I don't know if, I think the best way to do that is have an option where once a group goes into an instance, like let's say Blizzard decided to do like a classic plus, right? They grabbed, elements here and there from retail and put it in the classic, right? And that including the personal loot. But it's more like a selection rather than forced upon everybody else. So basically, once you get into an instance, you have this vote before, when you're starting, to have either personal loot or um oh, I suppose, what do you call that, like individual loot, personal loot, or
Yeah, yeah, just like I guess a loot, just a pile, just a loot pile.
yeah, maybe they can call it classic loot or something, classic
Yeah.
versus personal loot or something. You have a choice. So whoever votes the most, then it goes to that. Otherwise,
We'll see. Well, that's the thing, right? But then, because then it's going to come down to what is the best reward. Because then I feel like that's what would drive everybody in the end. Like, even if there was this option, it would still, I guess, unless they had to make it even in some way. So then it would have to be like, there would be a reason to do what would be harder. Because in like the classic loot system, the idea is that there's a good chance that like leaving with one item is going to be a good thing. Whereas with the personal loot system, it's probably really not about that. It's probably more about getting multiple things, I would say, on runs. At least it seems like.
that's true. And it comes to another thing that they added about retail, is that the dungeon finders. And when it comes to it, having that back then, you know retail, I just hate the thought now, because it's so fun to just go around and reach that area once you join a dungeon, and they wait for you, the anticipation. And this way, for me, I could uh get other stuff done while I'm flying there, or waiting. I'm not just, ready to go to the dungeon and then it ports you there. and and it's another thing too. um Mages can't even benefit from their portal anymore. I mean, I seen some that are the mages that they port people everywhere, but usually that's like in a raid. But I don't see anybody asking for port anymore.
Well, I mean, you see that's the thing. Like they in classic, like you're talking about like a situation where they make these classes so important. Like, a warlock is so important because a warlock actually gives you this opportunity to be summoned right to a dungeon, and and the game makes that so rare. Like you have to rely on the warlock. So it makes it all the more valuable to like have a warlock to rely on or
I mean, the mages alone, they pretty much got, I don't know, they got fucked basically after vanilla Burning Crusade. I mean, I loved Burning Crusade, don't get me wrong, but the idea was that Burning Crusade had this Shatrat city where it gives you
Mhm,
portal to like all the other cities. So you just save your hearth in Shatrat, and you never need a mage anymore, unless
mhm.
you're raiding. If you're going to Gruul Slayer or something like after Gruul Slayer, a mage can port you, but then you have Hearth too. So usually, when that happens, by the time that you people are killing Gruul after they're done, all their Hearth are pretty much ready to go. I have never, I guess I don't remember asking for a lot of mages to port me to places, and yeah, that just kind of that diminished, not even diminished, it was just like it it turned off like instant on an instant. There's like no more portal to places for mages.
Well, you know what? But people would argue that like the game eventually had to go that way because they kept adding like so much into it. Like, I mean, Azeroth is in retail, like Azeroth is so gigantic now that like I mean, I would say they couldn't, but I mean, if they did, it would certainly make the game feel like gigantic if they actually included the kind of like classic, need for portals. Because I mean, think about that. Like, think about being stuck in Northrend and having to get to Pandaria and stuff like this. I mean, that would be very interesting. I mean, that would change the whole game. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe I'm just over exaggerating because with mentioning of retail all the time versus classic, I just like classic so much that I can't even go back to retail anymore. And I think part of that is looking back into the previous expansion and kind of forgetting how much I had fun in Burning Crusade and Lich King, and I'm kind of um maybe going towards affecting those areas where I shouldn't because I love those expansion. I'm think what I'm trying to do is kind of comparison on from classic and every other expansion out there. The way I've been thinking about retail is like, oh, I like why would I even play retail anymore? And it goes back into the other expansions that they might be talking about of releasing after classic, and it's still they don't know what to do yet with that. So I don't know what to think of it yet. But I mean, either way, I think I'm still gonna play. If they decided to go to Burning Crusade, because I still want to be like we still have this server, and I wanna stay here, and I wanna keep what I have here, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that feels the same way.
I mean, like for instance, when you talk about like with Burning Crusade, I guess the first thing to ask is how long do you think it would even take for them to release? Because like the question would be how long until they would release Burning Crusade if that's what they're gonna do. But then I think like how long is it gonna be until they release Phase 4? Because I mean, I'm really curious to know how long they're gonna wait to give us a 20 person raid. Like I'm very curious to know how long they're gonna wait to do that and to give us another battleground. Because I feel like the game right now, it has a decent amount of stuff, but I think Phase 4 really adds like an extra layer of content. I just think that on its own is already like a massive addition to the game. I feel like we have a decent amount right now, but I mean, 40-person rating is an amazing thing, but at the same time, I'm really curious to see 20-person rating. Like I'm really curious to see classic WoW 20-person rating and like, really quality items from, just a 20-person group as opposed to how you need so many now. I'm so curious to see what the game is gonna be like when that's available. And also too, I just am so curious to finally see all of the battlegrounds. I think that I understand the no changes, but I think it's an interesting choice to actually do it the way it was way back when, to actually release the battlegrounds like staggered in this way. I mean, maybe I understand like some staggering, but I mean, they're waiting. I mean, we got those two battlegrounds. It feels like a while ago now, and we're going to be waiting. Who knows how long now for this next one? I mean, to me, I would think maybe I would have thought maybe in June we would get phase four. And the thing about that is, I feel like if that would be the case, then would they release the Burning Crusade in like another year from now, another year and a half from now? So like, like not 18 months, maybe like 24 months to like 36 months from now, something like that. Like, but I don't know, that seems too long. So I mean, when I think about it now, I feel like the Burning Crusade would be right around the corner if they're going to do that. And I mean, I wonder if people are going to be happy about that, or if people are not going to be happy about that. I know a lot of people do want to play the Burning Crusade though, so I mean, I guess there'd be a lot of people who have quit who would come back potentially for that. I mean, I'm sure you might know some people maybe who would say that, because I think I know some people who might say that.
Yeah, and Burning Crusade for me, I think, especially being a shaman, man, that's where we pick our specs because of the dual wield enhancement shamans. Man, if they ever release that, I'd be excited too. But I wouldn't know what to think of it yet because I guess it's just still too early to kind of anticipate that. And I mean, you can, it's just I think from the sound of it, they might go towards that decision. But when it comes to the phase, I think let's say like every because they did this like every three supposed to be like every 3 months, and they decided to unlock the PvP like within half of that month, and then the third the phase after that half month, and I think that's a good idea. Let's say 3 months 2 months from now they release the Arathi Basin, and then 2 months later they would release AQ, and then they would do the same thing after that release from AQ to Naxxramas and so forth, right? Because Naxxramas is the last one, right? And
Yes.
after that is the Drums of War.
Hmm.
Supposedly Drums of War was like a cross realm BGs, which we have now. So they just included that when Warsong Gulch came out, Warsong Gulch and Altec Valley came out. They just added that. I thought it was just gonna be within realm per realm, but I was surprised that they got added there. So, can you give me 1 second here? I just have to.
Oh, sure, sure.
I just installed Hearthstone. I wanted to maybe just try a different game um to play when I'm talking to people. I think I just need a different game to play when I'm unless you wanted to run something or whatever.
It's so funny because I'm actually here. I think one of our guildies, he's trying to get his brother attuned for Molten Core. So I'm actually here right now in this group with them. Um, and we have it's funny enough, we have a shaman who's tanking it right now. Um, yeah, our main guy, Doctor Thickness, he's here tanking, and I mean, it just goes to show like what the shaman is capable in the game. And I mean, again, like there would definitely be other guilds who would be like not interested in this, or just groups of people in general. There would just be groups of people that are just like, I really don't want a shaman to tank. You really should do this and do this and this. So I mean, it's more, but it's also more about the fact that like it works. Like we're also aware. Like you have to also be aware of composition and be aware of like what you're capable of, and be aware what people's knowledge levels are. It's all about these things coming together. But again, classic is this amazing, like it's this amazing like piece of art where, because of the talent system, you do have flexibility. Like there is this real flexibility at times with the classes. Like there is a lot of different things the classes can do. There's a lot of things you can spec into. There's a lot of different ways that you can play the game. So I mean, I understand like there's so many people who are so into alts, but it's tough. For me, I feel like I spend, we were talking about this last night. Like, I feel like I spend so much time on Thrax, and I don't want to like pressure myself to be like, oh, you got to stop playing. I got to stop playing as Thrax. Like, I gotta like level up an alt. I've got to level up another character. Like, that's what I gotta do. Like, I don't want to pressure myself into that because in classic, like the whole journey to 60, even though it's different, it was different this time around. It was still, a crazy tough experience. So I want to enjoy like my level 60. But I mean, we were talking also about that interesting thing we were saying last night about how you were saying when you were younger playing the game that you felt like you were more addicted to it. Like it was something that you did more often. And it was funny because I was thinking today about how, and I've definitely told this to people before, but I didn't bring it up last night, was that I remember when I was a kid first playing this game that I was a level 30 Fury Warrior, and I was in the Shimmering Flats, and like the game was so difficult. I felt like I didn't understand anything that was going on in the game. I had no money. And I remember being there in the Shimmering Flats, and I think I might have like gotten killed by a turtle, something like this. And I remember thinking like that point that I was like, I need to just unsub. Like, I'm not going to sub to the game for a while. Like, I need to just take a break from WoW. And it's funny because now coming back to the game now, knowing what I know about it, I've actually found it to be the opposite, where it's like, since I know sort of what's coming next, I have an idea about what to do. And also, I didn't pick Fury Warrior. I'm sorry to all the Fury Warriors that might listen to this, but I felt like that was just a horrible experience as the first character, first time through, in an MMO. I think it turned out terrible. Like, it turned out to be a horrible decision. It made me not want to play the game. And it's funny now because all these years later, playing as a shaman, I just keep thinking to myself, like, why? Like, why didn't I pick shaman back then? Like, my second character I made was a shaman who I got into the 40s, but I still just think like, oh, I wish I would have just leveled up a shaman back then. Like, I wish I would have just did this as a kid because it would have been such a just a more like enjoyable experience. Like, there's so much more freedom to the character. You have the ghost wolf, you have all the self heals, you have all the damage you're able to do. You can wear a shield as well too while you're questing to give yourself like even more life and just more of a chance against just any of the monsters in the world. So I just regret that, honestly. Like, looking back, I really regret that I didn't play shaman when I was a kid, basically.
Sure. And for me, there's a moment where I'm like, oh, maybe I should have rolled this and should have rolled that. But after a while of just thinking about it, because I had a hunter on retail, back in not retail, vanilla. What it was, what I felt before. I mean, I had so much fun with the hunter, right? But I mean, either way, I think I could have rolled a hunter or shaman. But at the same time, I don't regret uh making a shaman. So I'm glad that I did because I get to choose being a resto or a DPS. If I wanted to tank, I can maybe do that. But I was kind of skeptical on that. You mentioned about tanking, and it's not like I have anything against it. It's just that like I think tanking as a shaman would be pretty cool, I guess. I don't know the benefit of it when it comes into raiding, but there's a situation where I'm like, I can't really think of a moment where I'd want to tank on the raid, but it'd be kind of cool to do dungeons and do runs, quick runs and stuff like that. Especially if you already get like off spec stuff that you retain from, or if you gather from raids. Like for me, I think I wouldn't mind getting some type of off spec to get if I decided to want to tank, or maybe like an off tank on a raid or something, just to change things up, or maybe roll as an elemental or something. But I don't know. I guess I'm not into that point yet where I would like to change my spec.
it's also like a matter too of also the idea of PvP. And so like for me, when I was making my shaman, it became this thing where I wanted to heal. I wanted to be able to heal at any time and also even be able to heal in raids. But I also wanted to have Storm Strike because I just felt that like I could have Storm Strike and also be able to raid heal. And I felt like I wanted to just build up to that goal. And I wanted to realize that. And I think that at this point, it's worked out. I mean, even by the numbers, I think and yeah, it makes sense. It's not like it's some kind of luck or like I've doctored, I've cooked the books. It's just a situation where there's a lot of options and talent points that make um being a enhancement shaman who's trying to do DPS like also viable for healing. I just think that's something that I still enjoy, and I think that's what is a key to classic WoW is like if you really enjoy like your class and the way your class plays, like that's like this big thing that's gonna keep you coming back, basically.
Speaking on your guild, um, what's the you're in Landlubbers, right?
Yes, I am the first mate of the Landlubbers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had rolled on RP PvP back when I first played vanilla, and when I rolled RP PvP back then, I don't think I really understood what it meant. But I did it for the right reasons. Like I did it then because I looked at the server. I said, well, with RP PvP, I mean that must mean you can do everything on the server. I mean it has more letters. You know what I mean? It's bigger. It's a bigger name than the other ones. But well, so it has this big acronym, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll pick this, and I think I was right. Like it does mean that you have access to PvP because there's always going to be the opportunity for PvP because out in the world anybody can hit you in contested territory. Then you have access to all the other end game content anyway. But then also it opens up this whole other world, which is the RP and people who are like creating their own stories, who are like experiencing these we're experiencing and sharing like these really interesting little quirky, just fun, it could be like stories, could be jokes, like could be anything, and just getting into a character within the world. And you have all that like thrown in on top of the other two things that I've already said. So it's like you do get to have everything. Like you get to have every kind of experience on a server like this. And you know, at first when I first started, I didn't really imagine doing it. Like you were talking about how some people who you're close to kind of like aren't sure how they feel about it. And I was exactly that kind of person. Like I was interested in sometimes like seeing like people who are role playing and like maybe doing like PvP role play and stuff like that, or they're like saying funny stuff and they're PvPing and they're in character. And I was kind of interested in it and I thought it was cool. But then like I suddenly just started to I just suddenly started to get more into it. And it was something where like at first I would kind of just see people doing it and I wasn't sure if I wanted to like, I don't know, engage. Then suddenly like I went to a couple of events and I go to an event that the Landlubbers host called was called a Brewfest event, which was back in October. Um, and the Landlubbers were a guild the Landlubbers are a guild that was created like I think on like the first day or the first 2 days of the server um, by Captain Ida and I think a couple of just like I real life friends, friends that they've known from the past, bunch of years they've known these people and this little core group of people started the Landlubbers and the whole goal was to keep the guild always like really lighthearted and fun and like engaging in like RP and PvP and everything else that the server really, was all about. And they were having this little event, and I kind of just got into the event. I was having a lot of fun. People were making lots of jokes. People were saying lots of funny and cool stuff. People were using like cool add-ons. I had just gotten like the total RP add-on, which gives you like some options to put like a little backstory for yourself, to put a little last name for your character, all these cool little things. And and I had like such a good time there, and they wanted me to join, but I really wasn't sure if I wanted to. Like there was a part of me that wanted to, and this was another thing, right? We were talking about where there was a part of me who was thinking, okay, I don't know if I'm ever going to join a guild. Like I'll just always be on my own. I don't have to worry about anything. I'll just play the game basically by myself. And I guess after I went to that event, that sort of feeling, I guess it kind of went out the window basically. Like I guess I just felt really at home with the landlubbers. And I guess I kind of knew back then that this was always going to be like a good group of people to just sort of grow with and just like get to know and like play with. And, over time, like I've just really gotten to know like so many people, and I play with and run with so many different people now. And we're all just like getting lots of loot, and we're doing more like RP and PvP events. We have like another event coming up on Sunday where we're going to do like a demonstration. We've got more like RP PvP events coming up in the future that are like mini games where like, certain areas, like certain alliance will try to hold a place in the world, and horde will try to take that place over. Stuff like that. So I mean, it's a really great thing to have. And like I was talking about this before, when we were talking last night, that like I'm a person that, without like getting into like way too many like personal details, like there's definitely some like anxiety towards like getting to know people, and like there's also some personal like depression that I deal with like in my own life. And for me, like having a really great social group of people who I can really play with a lot, like I can get to know, and like I can like share, the experience with, basically, really, like that really makes, like that just makes it so worth it. And it's almost like a really like a therapeutic sort of experience. Like there's a fine line between getting like way too involved in the game and letting it hurt you. But then there's also like that important thing. I mean, we were talking about this too, about people who let the game ruin their lives or like really affect their personal life. But then there's that fine line where it's like, it is this piece of art that we're paying for. So like you got to try and get something out of it. So if you can get something therapeutic out of it, well then you got to use the game responsibly, and you got to get that therapeutic, feeling out of the game. That's something that is, I think, really positive. And it's very possible. It is a social thing. Like we're here with each other. We're not doing this by ourselves. Like there are other people here to share it with. And I think that's the real magical thing about Classic too, is because it's such a small community. Like, I know everybody. Like being in the landlubbers means something, because like not only do I know all the landlubbers, but also know like so many different people on the server. And it becomes this really close community where now, we have this RP community going now where it's a collection of different RP guilds on the Horde side called the Iron Circle. And there's just various different friends and really great people. Sharp Tusk is one of these great people who's like helped to, push this on. Um, the Thunderhoof tribe is another big group of people who have pushed this on. There's so many great people in there too who we're all friends with. And we've are making this, this coalition, this group, to just, kind of just keep everybody united, like just trying to keep the RP community together, and like trying to help people to do lots of things if they need help doing things, because raiding also, it takes so many people to raid. So I mean, having this nice coalition of people who are always able to get together, who, basically enjoy the game for the same reasons, who have the same kind of ideas about things, who want to engage in certain funny and interesting things. It's amazing to have this community for them to keep all of us connected, and
That's the awesome thing about RPing. And you mentioned that you're, I don't know, basically you guys PvP, raid and RP. And how is your schedule? I mean, do you guys have a schedule of doing certain things on RPing and raiding, and who is the known person that does a lot of RP, especially like RP events going on Orgrimmar? Is that someone in your guild that does that, like fashion show?
no, well, the thing is that there was a person who used to actually be in the guild, but they've gone on to some other places, and done some other interesting things. I think they were involved with making the fashion show. But for us, like like we have a raid schedule right now, which is like a Friday, Monday raid schedule for MC, which is just kind of like a progression, raid, just kind of just a chill raid. We're kind of just making our way on rag. We're farming like 8 out of 10, just doing just the simple, usual kind of thing. But when it comes to like the RP events, like it's also like way more of like a team effort. Like it's way more about like we have like a really good team of just officers who a lot of them are really into doing like RP events. And so it's just like every so often like people will get like a big idea for something that seems really cool, and then we just try to put it together. I mean, it also comes from like some alliance people who are contacting people on the horde side to like get involved in like PvP events and RP PvP events. So I mean, when you get like that movement going, you get like various different things going on. Like we have one person right now who's dealing with events that are like Forsaken only events. We have another person who is dealing with a lot of like also Alliance PvP RP events. We have some people who are dealing with um, like events that are involving more like apothecary kind of functions, and which is going to be like yeah, like talking about abominations and how to make plague and these kind of things. So it's really like a team effort. Like it's everybody getting involved and everybody like being really interested in it, and that's the thing that you need. I mean, you need people to be active to keep events like this going. And then the idea is because of events like this, people will stay active because, it's this really fun communal thing where we just all get together and we all have like just huge smiles on our faces. We all have a big laugh. I mean, we had an event the other week where we picked a spot in STV, which is just off the coast near Booty Bay. And there's a spot on this island where you can farm winter squid. And the point of this game was going to be that all these alliance were going to come and they were going to fight us over who could control this area for like an hour. And whoever got the most squid at the end of the hour wins. And the funny thing about this was like a week or two before that, they had did an event with us where they needed to walk from Ashenvale to the Dustwallow Marsh. And if they made it there with like there was like a few tanks who had to live. If those tanks made it to Dustwallow Marsh, they won basically. And they beat the hell out of us. Like they beat us down. Like we really got beat. Like we gave them a fight like through the whole Barrens, but like it was like it felt like they had almost 50 people and we had like 35 or so people. And I think it got up to like where we had more than 40, but we got face rolled. We got beat up on. So then we turned the tables though 2 weeks ago. So they come and they're coming to do the fishing, to play this fishing game. We got so many horde who came out to that, and we beat the hell out of them. And then we went and then we took over Menethil Harbor for a little while, and we were all having a whole big laugh about that. But I mean, it's the way that that event happened is because you have various different officers, various different people from both sides, from Alliance and from Horde, who are just like, all right, let's plan something fun. Like, let's get everybody together to do something fun, and that's the main way that we do stuff like that.
It doesn't matter what you represent as in terms of RP. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive or happy or sad. It's RP, which makes it more freaking fun, man. Because I look at it
Yeah.
this I look at it this way. Like, um, if you ever get mad on something like that, serious about it, it's an RP, then you have a problem. And the whole point of RP is to not take everything seriously. It's like acting, if you haven't, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that out there that who doesn't RP knows how to RP, and they get it. And if you think that you need some type of like acting, experience.
I mean, it's really funny that you say that because I mean, for me, I mean, I'm a person who I went to like, I spent a few years in film school, and that was something that was a big deal for me, like a long while ago. Like, I think it's funny because me going to film school seems to actually coincide with when I quit WoW originally, and, like, around that time I quit WoW, and that was just it's like, it's not like it's totally connected. I mean, I'm sure there was probably a part of me that felt like college is this, stressful thing. See, and we go back to the issue about the kids, right? From the beginning, we were talking about how you don't understand about people saying that. And you're so right, but then there I am. I'm one of these people where I'm not even I don't even have kids. I'm just going like to school, which to be honest is in no way as bad as or as time consuming and fulfilling. Maybe that will answer if it's more as fulfilling as children. I don't think it necessarily is because your kids are way more important than even anything. But when it comes down to school for me at that point, as a stupid kid, I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna quit WoW. I wasn't really thinking about getting the next expansion and like raiding. So I just quit. I didn't get Cataclysm. And I spent time in film school and I definitely acted too. And I had aspirations, I guess, maybe a little bit, or like still think about like, oh, that'd be a decent way like to earn a living. Like that would be a cool way, that'd be a cool job. It's something that I was decent at, back then. So, I don't know if that's well, on top of that too, I also took sign language when I was in high school. And I really need to brush up on it. If I spend some time relearning it, I definitely could be good again. But for me, like I think learning sign language is also really learning how to like do improv and to act also, because when you sign and you try to tell a story using sign language, it's like this really it's like this really I guess you'd say like it's this event that's really full of expression. Like you really have to express yourself. Like you really have to tell the story when you're signing to somebody and you're signing a story to somebody. And that's kind of like how you have to act things out as a signer, and that feeds into actually acting if you're going to be in film. And I don't I you know, I'd always been interested in that, so maybe that's why RP does come easier to me. Maybe it's something that. But then also look, like I'm also, a really like a high-ranking officer in an RP guild. You don't need to be a high-ranking officer in an RP guild to RP, so maybe I'm cut out, right? Like I'm cut out to be a person who RPs a lot. But for the regular person, I think that there's just such a fulfillment in just like not worrying about how good you can do it or how comfortable you are doing it. Just like relaxing, letting it come to you, let seeing what the feeling is, seeing what people say, like not worrying about what you say, just kind of relaxing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing too. I mean, I do like RPing, and I do not have experience of RPing at all. Usually, I'm mostly terrible at the things that I'm gonna say first, and it's not really the awkwardness of it. It's more like the the ignorance of it, the to not knowing on what to how to interact. I'm not like, I obviously, I like to talk, but when I include that in some type of acting, RPing per se, and thinking about that, it's just like, how should I approach this, and how should I start with this whole RP thing? It's so weird for me sometimes. One of those things that we were talking about last night, it's about your the magazine that you.
Oh, my magazine. Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Noggin Fogger.
That's pretty awesome, man, because that's
Oh,
another.
thank you.
Yeah, that's another thing about it too. Deviate the Light community has the we have and the podcast, the what else is there out there? You're not gonna Fagger.
Mhm.
There's a lot of that stuff. Like, how did we
There is,
became?
yeah, there
Yeah,
is.
how did we became this entertainment entertainment server, man. Because
server. Well, listen. So you know what? I first off, I was so it's interesting. I was going to bring up, and I think this fits in perfectly. Like I originally, when I was first on the server, I was thinking to myself, like I said, like, oh, I don't, well, actually, I don't know about RPing, and then I got into RPing, and then I was like, I don't know if I'm really good at RPing. I don't know if I'm really active. I don't know if I'm making this community good. And so I just started sitting around like the campfire in Orgrimmar with people like Sharp Tusk. I started meeting these various different people from the Thunderhoof tribe, like Toshe, and you see like this server is full of these amazing, interesting characters. Like there are a lot of characters around. Like people pick this server because they wanted a lot. Well, a lot of people I've met, they picked the server because they wanted an interesting community, and they brought their own interests, and that is really making it such a cool place, and I just hope people always have fun with it because as of now, like I can think of so many people who I love playing with who are such characters and who contribute to like such an amazing and interesting community. And I think hopefully more of them are going to start to work also with making the Noggin Fogger. Like there's a few different like close friends that I have who I'd like to like have contribute into the Noggin Fogger as well. And I think it's just the server just has so many interesting characters and so many interesting people. Like I mean, there's so many interesting groups of like friends who are family members who are friends from work who are just in the landlubbers. So I can't imagine how many different connections there might be on the server otherwise. So I mean, it's just this really interesting place. And I mean, you were asking last night like where I got the inspiration from, and I feel like the inspiration kind of I don't think it came really from Bacteria. I think it came from like a different server who was trying to get a newspaper together. So, I mean, that's kind of funny on its own because that means that like me and Bacteria just, without even having this knowledge of each other, we're just deciding to do this basically. Like I mean, I was just having conversations, like funny conversations in the Landlubbers Discord, in dungeon runs, about the things that the perverts on the alliance are doing, when they're in molten core together. And we're just having this funny conversation, and I'm just like, you know what? I have so many screenshots, like I'm taking so many pictures all the time. Let's just turn this into a magazine. Like let's do that. And recently I've kind of started to make it like a monthly. So we'll see if that carries on. Like we were talking about also like a website for it in the future, but I think it would be, we were having a really interesting conversation about that. And I think, like I was saying, like I think maybe after a month or two, I would think about it more seriously. Like I think for right now, and like I said, I say this for every issue, but right now I want to get like the next issue out, have it as like this solid, concrete, like we're here to stay. The Noggin Fogger is official, you can always trust that we're going to have one out eventually, this and that. And then when you put another one out, and then it's like really, here to stay, and then maybe think about or like I said, like maybe also like more of like an e-reader, a Nook, an iPad download,
yeah, yeah,
to read, yeah, digitally.
there's a lot of application publisher out there for a specific type of like magazine comic books. You can find that out anywhere, man. I think I honestly recommend that going that way because my friend who has been reading a lot of comics but are into comic books, that's what he uses and he loves it. And I can see people using that kind of stuff as a platform and in downloading your magazine or like maybe like every week issue. When it came to the newspaper where Bacteria was talking about, I don't know if you heard the podcast where I interviewed him. When he was talking about, it's kind of similar what you had kind of experienced because he was just somewhere, doing about whatever he was doing, and was taking screenshots here and there. So he was just like, what if I made a magazine or a newspaper? So he just decided to do it that day. It was supposed to be just for fun and for the first time that he never thought about the consequence of it, the outcome of it, and later on people keep asking for the second issue, So he's just like, oh, screw it. I'm gonna start doing this.
And I mean, there's definitely an audience for it, and I mean, I think it suits the server, I mean, I think it suits the server to have, not even just one, but like two, sources of like, news, two publications. I mean, I think it's interesting because, I think it all started where I rolled on Grobulus. So it's like I don't know if Grobulus is able to have such an interesting personal community. I mean, everybody seems to have criticisms of Grobulus. Like everybody seems to criticize that community there. So I mean, maybe in theory, if Bacteria and me were making our papers there, like I was making my magazine there, making his Daily Deviate there, like maybe there would be more readers, maybe, but I don't even know if it would be true. Like maybe we would just have access to more readers, but we wouldn't actually get more people reading. Maybe we're actually in this perfect place where we might have a lower population, but it's actually people who are interested in the content. They're actually interested in the art. They're interested in making the art and like communicating with each other. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I really hope that that carries on. I mean, I guess in a way, that's also why I came back to Classic is to have that kind of like close knit experience. Like I figured it would be a more close knit experience. I felt like there were names of people out in the world, and then there were little ways that you could know about these people outside the game, like from the Discord and from like different things that they might say on the Discord, or you would just get to know these alliance members from places that you'd see them out in the world or things that they would say on the Discord. And so you could, so it's like you could see these people and kind of get to know them and get to remember their names, and they could all become like a celebrity amongst like your group of friends because you'd be like, oh, there's Haley, there's Ulkrag, there's Moo Moo Man, there's all these different people who you recognize. Well, you see, and that's the thing. Like I was gonna say for me, like I really like I what I really would love for this is like, well, first I was gonna say I think you're so right to kind of just keep doing it and having fun with it and doing it as best as you can, and like that's just the best thing to do. I think really, it's just the best way to go for it. But I think also like for me, I think that for me, what I just would really love is to have like these people who IRP with, who I play with in the game, to just like maybe get to know Thrax a little bit more, maybe just a little bit, like to have something interesting to know about Thrax, the Thrax that they play with all the time, but also like to just maybe like put out there that if people don't know that there is this really cool community of people in the Iron Circle on Deviant Delight, and if you're maybe leveling up and you're kind of thinking about wanting an RP experience, that there's definitely a lot of really cool places out there. There's a lot of cool RP guilds out there, and they raid and they do lots of great events and they do lots of cool stuff. And it's a really amazing experience. And it's one of the most important things in the game that makes me always want to log in. Is yeah, like absolutely, like the podcast, the papers, that's amazing, but also the interactions with just these really interesting people in the game who are telling these funny and interesting stories, and like I said, like it all kind of started with Sharp Tusk, just like getting me to just talk around the fire and just participate and just telling stories, and it just starts from there and it becomes like this really interesting, really funny, really amazing experience. And I just want to let people know about that, and I hope I think I hope that people will know about it more from listening to this. But I just think it's such an amazing thing. It's such an amazing community, and I just really want to have more people in it who really enjoy it, because I think it's such an amazing thing, and it's like such a nice thing to have, like I said, like it's almost a therapeutic thing to have these social interactions with people who like you really like, that you really get to know. And it's just this really nice thing, and like you have to balance it, like what we had talked about before. Like you have to balance it without being like, you don't want to be completely addicted to the game and it's really affecting your life. But then you want to take this piece of art, and you want to get something really great out of it. And it's a social piece of art. Like it's a really special thing, and that's what I think is most important for my experience. And I just want people to maybe know a little bit more about that. And if people were interested in trying it out, to encourage them to do so, because I think there is a lot of fun to be had, doing it.
Yeah. Having said that, are you the person that would want to participate in helping people out if they wanted to get to know more about RP? And I mean, would you consider having, or do you know anybody that would help out? Let's say a few people that wants to try to RP. How would you explain to them? Who would you tell them? Who like how would you point the direction towards learning from the perspective of a person who knows nothing about RP?
I would say, for me, my first inclination would be to tell them to do slash join space and then put the iron circle. And that is a really great RP channel for people who want to participate in some RP stuff. I think also to, like, if you're interested to know, the landlubbers are always posting our Discord. We have some links to other RP Discords. There's also the Thunderhoof tribe, which has a really fun Discord with events. So I would point in those directions. I know that the Alliance have a very healthy RP community, and I think there's some people like Keldrick, Vengeance of Balloon, have some interesting people. Sandrine, I think, is one person who comes to mind who, they have some interesting stuff going on there too with the Alliance. So I mean, I guess that's where I would point them. But I would say all the Iron Circle guilds. And then it's kind of like what you're interested in. You have Brotherhood of Blades, which is this all rogue guild. We have the Thunderhoof tribe, which is all Tauren. You have the Landlubbers, which is a bit of a pirate theme. So you've got like a bunch of different things. So I guess it's more about maybe getting to know some of the major people, and then like what kind of fits you more, what kind of fits in with what you'd like more. But that would be the places I would tell people to go, and also landlubbers. Look, I mean, I absolutely love the landlubbers. Captain Ida, just I owe everything to Captain Ida for getting me into this great crew and like giving me the opportunity to be like an officer here and to really do a lot of work towards making the guild great. And I would always recommend people, because not even just to say like I definitely am going to just sit here and recruit, but I would just say to come and have a look, because you might get turned on to other things or meet other interesting people and like see other groups that are really interesting and see great events. So I would definitely recommend that if people are interested. And it's really just if you go onto the Deviate Delight Discord, the guild recruitment, we have a recruitment message in there. We haven't posted on Reddit in a little bit, so maybe soon we'll probably put a little something on Reddit. But we have something on there. On if you search the landlubbers on Reddit, you'll probably find um, some interesting stuff on there. So yeah, that's where I would say to go. That would be the place I would say to go.
Cool, man. Other than that, do you have any shout outs, or do you have anything you want to mention before we depart?
I think the only thing I would just shout out is to just like all of my landlubbers. I love you guys so much. If any of you are listening, and Thunder Tribe, shout outs to you guys and everybody in the Iron Circle. I already mentioned like a bunch of names. Order of the Forsaken, you guys are really cool too. Um, these are all just like really great RP guilds, and I just hope they're all doing well. And I always want to see them prosper. And if anybody wants to join a cool RP guild, those are all cool names. And I love all you guys, particularly you, Sharp Tusk. I can't wait to share some more stories with you. Um, and basically that's really it. That's people I really like. In the all these great RP guilds, and also I have a bunch of good friends in the Night Witches, so there's some cool people there too. So shout outs to you guys. I know Kendi is looking forward to the episode, so I hope you enjoyed it, Kendi.
Let's call it a night, and um, I need to go to bed, so it's about that time for me. So yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for doing this again, and I promise you that this is captured this time. So
It's on. Yeah, we got it. We got it this time.
definitely. So you have a good night, man.
You too, man. Have a good one. Thank you again.